Awesome.
Now
We have life.
recording.
Yes. He has such a deep voice with such a cute looking
Yeah.
teddy bear.
Mhm.
Okay. I shall start. If you're ready.
Go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tiger Nexus podcast. And today, welcome to our very first episode to our sub-series named Movie Dumpster Dive. I actually got given the name by our guest, Ben Baker. Ben Baker originally used the Movie Dumpster Dive as a TikTok series where he spoke about movies, but he is allowing me to use the name as he is my guest for this sub-series. In this sub-series, you'll find us talking about different movies, 1 to 2 movies per episode, depending on how much we can get into one movie. And usually it will be one of us defending whilst the other person doesn't like the film. For now, we'll stick with Ben, but we'll flip it around eventually, and I'll have to defend a film or two as well. So today's movie is Spider-Man 3, the last film of the Sam Raimi trilogy. It is not deemed the best Spider-Man film. Of course, there's a lot to hate. Multiple villains that aren't deemed good, Spider-Man's emo-esque characteristic personality trait when he's wearing the black suit, and of course we have the likes of Gwen Stacy being around and things like that. Everything gets mentioned and more in this episode, so I really hope you guys stick around and give it a good listen to. Now make sure that you keep an eye out for Movie Dumpster Dive episode 2. The movie hasn't exactly been thought of yet, but I'm sure me and Ben can come up with another good movie to dissect. So I really hope you enjoyed this sub-series. Make sure that you follow us, of course, on Facebook so you guys get notified. With that being said, let's dive in with our episode.
Welcome to the Tiger Nexus Podcast, a place where you'll find interviews with content creators and geeks alike. Your host, Ty Tiger, has delved upon the Nexus and found interesting content creators and geeks of all fandoms. This podcast is connected to the Zero Hero Network. And now, we dive in with another episode!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tiger Nexus podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special individual. He is very well known for his movie critiques, and he is also very well known for liking certain movies that us society would deem not so well, but that is the whole point of this sub-series that I'm going to start on the channel. First off, welcome Ben Baker to the podcast. Hi Ben, how's things?
Hi Ty. Things are going pretty okay, good, whatever. Thanks for having me here tonight to this morning, whatever time people are listening to this.
Well, currently for me, I have 25 minutes, and then it'll be, technically speaking, midnight. So I guess that is very accurate.
I got 6 hours and 25 minutes. So.
That still baffles me. Anyway, our little sub-series that me and Ben are going to be doing every few weeks, I'll have Ben return, and we're going to be diving into movies that are deemed not good, deemed, blockbuster flops, deemed just terrible films. And the reason why Ben is joining me is because the films that we'll be talking about will take 1 to 2 films per episode, depending on how much we can talk about. Ben deems them good films. Ben is a bit of an oddball. He's a bit strange, which is awesome. We're not dissing him there. We love that. And today's episode is from a trilogy that is very well beloved. A trilogy that got a little bit more taste to the MCU because it obviously got brought back into Spider-Man No Way Home. And we're talking about Spider-Man 3, which is, to me, deemed the worst of the trilogy. To a lot of people, deemed the worst of the trilogy. But Ben here somehow deems it the best, and this entire little sub-series will be Ben defending these movies. So, Ben, if you could rank the Tobey Maguire trilogy, so obviously that's Spider-Man 1 where he fights the Green Goblin, Spider-Man 2 where he fights Doc Ock, and Spider-Man 3 with the Black Suit, Venom, and Sandman, how would you rank these films?
Okay, so first I have to say that it's not only the best, it's the only good one of the series. So, I know that might get on people's nerves. I would actually go backwards. 3, 2, 1. 1 is probably one of the worst movies ever made. 2 is a little bit better recreation of the first movie, and then the third one was pretty good.
Okay, so first off, two things. I'm glad you put 2 at second place, because to me, second's the best. And the fact you said Spider-Man 1's one of the worst films ever made.
It was the first
man.
time I came out of the movie theater completely disappointed, and I knew I was going to be disappointed. Spider-Man's my favorite comic book character, my favorite superhero of all time is Spider-Man. And I was so excited. I was in 10th grade when this movie came out, and my dad he's a reader. He collects books, and this was back when they used to come out with the novelizations of the movies before the movies were actually released in theaters. This is before MySpace and Facebook, so there wasn't really a lot of internet, stuff going on about spoilers. And I read the book, excited, and then when I got done with the book, I was thinking to myself, I hope the movie is better, because that book was garbage. And then I watched the movie, and I'm like, no, it was worse. It was worse.
Oh my god, that's a whole episode in itself. Oh my days.
Yeah. I just don't like the story. That is a whole episode, because like with Star Wars The Force Awakens being the only Star Wars movie I hate, this is like the only Spider-Man movie I just don't like. It just ruffles my feathers talking about
this. That's wow, you've actually like I didn't realize I'd be taken aback, 5 minutes in, but I am. Holy shit. Wow, okay.
Do you know what,
right?
Shock value in there.
We're gonna do this quite often, like I said, every few weeks, and I swear to God, my most used phrase in this little sub-series of ours is me going, oh my god.
Yeah, you might say it quite a bit on a few things.
Yeah, so I want to talk about what I deem good about Spider-Man 3. Now, I'm not saying I hate the film. I'm not saying it's the worst film of all time. There are definitely Marvel movies that are worse than Spider-Man 3. There are definitely movies deemed, air quote, in the Spider-Man movie franchise and lore and crap that are definitely worse. But to me, it definitely has its flaws. But I want to talk about the positives for a minute. The first thing I do really like about this film is Harry Osborn in this. Not so much him being the villain, I just like the way he acts. I like his portrayal. Certain moments of his, like when he sat there eating pie, Peter crosses the road, he turns back and he kind of like turns a shoulder, winks at him, and then the bus drives past, he's gone. I like that little scene there, he's got this, I don't want to say dickhead-ish energy, but that's the only way I can explain it. He's got this like angst to him. I don't know, I like this version of Harry. I like that he's, overconfident, he's a bit cocky, I liked this version of Harry, because we've seen Harry been a bit, I don't know, just normal teenage, I guess, number one. And number two, he had, he's wants revenge, he's a bit lackluster, he doesn't know what to do and all that jazz, he doesn't know his dad's the Green Goblin yet, all that stuff. But number 3 is where, he's a bit cocky. We have that little bit where he's lost his memory, but, that doesn't matter. Take that away. But, I do like Harry Osborn's portrayal in this. I think it's one of the better versions of Harry.
I do as well. I think he's better in this one than the first two. Well, I think he's a good character throughout the trilogy. I think with James Franco is kind of, for me, the more highlight. He was, well, we're going to go back to the first movie. One of the reasons why I don't like the first movie is because the acting is horrible. But he has probably the best acting of that movie. So, but you kind of see his story kind of go full circle here. And I like it too.
So I think, okay, so a lot of people don't actually know this, so I'm going to quickly explain this. When it comes to Spider-Man 3, Venom was never actually going to originally part of Spider-Man 3. Sam Raimi might have put him in Spider-Man 4, but the people above him, the top dogs, whatever you want to call them, said that Venom, because of the cartoon that was going on at the time and stuff like this, Venom sells toys. And of course, when it comes to these sort of films, they don't just think of making a movie, they think of, budget production, and they think of, how they can sell it and all this stuff, and toys sell, especially to kids. So they demanded that Sam Raimi put Venom in the movie, and Sam Raimi tried to fight it. He was like, no, I'm sticking with Sandman, I'm sticking with Harry becoming, next Green Goblin or Hobgoblin or whatever his actual title is, and stuff. But they demanded, and obviously Sam Raimi wanted to do Spider-Man 3, so he had to do Venom. So Venom was never actually originally going to be in the movie. So do you think Venom being a part of this film is the perfect way, or would you prefer it if they pushed Venom to like the fourth film and just kept the Sandman and Harry Osborn stuff?
So that's kind of a tricky question, because I kind of feel like if it was just the Sandman and the Green Goblin, I don't know if I would have liked it, because I didn't really care for the Sandman in the movie. That's one of my knocks on it. Maybe not his
he
character.
actually said something bad about it, guys. He actually said something bad about it.
Not necessarily the character, their acting is just one thing I don't like about Sam Raimi is the way he just shoots these movies. And this one is shot better. The movie shot better than the first two, but there's just a few things that I don't know. To me, I don't know. Sometimes cinematography is more of what I'm trying to. I have I guess a different sense of what I like when it comes to that. But I didn't care how they shot the Sandman when he was not the sand version, just the human version. Maybe it was just too cartoony for me.
When it comes to Sandman, I'm glad that they at least got him comic book accurate in looks, because he's wearing, the top is green and black striped. That's how it is in the comic books and things like this. And I praise the film for the fact that we did at least get some explanation, some backstory towards Sandman. Because with Doc Ock, we knew who Doc Ock was. We saw him with Peter, but we didn't get any real backstory. Not really. We had some love relationship advice given to Peter Parker at one point, but that's pretty much it. With at least Flint Marko, we got him running away from cops. We had him go see his daughter and stuff like this, or try to at least see his daughter and stuff like this. We at least got some explanation to why he's doing what he's doing. I'm glad about that. That was cool. I'm glad we saw that. I can kind of see what you mean about the cartooniness about it. I think one of my favorite scenes is when Spider-Man does punch Flint right in the stomach, and his hand goes right through him, and he's like, whoa, that's a bit odd, sort of thing. That's kind of cool, because that's just amusing. Spider-Man's even taken aback by it. But yeah, the big Sandman. I don't know, it kind of felt like I was watching an episode of Power Rangers.
Not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, no, but I don't know, I guess the big Sandman. I did like the fight scene between him, Hobgoblin, and Spidey, but it's just I don't know, he looked a bit odd. But I see what you mean by Sam Raimi's cinematography-esque. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I think I see what you mean. A lot of people do say they would prefer it if, for an example, they kept everything about the black suit, but then when Peter tears it off, we don't see it again in the film, third film. Then film 4 is just Venom, so the whole black suit stuff stays in, but then Venom comes into number 4, and it's kind of like a repercussion of what happened in the third film. It's Parker now has to deal with Eddie Brock and stuff. What's your thoughts on Eddie Brock as not as Venom, just as the character Eddie Brock? Because a lot of people are 50-50.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people, when the movie came out, they were up in arms, because Topher Grace is, he's skinny. Brock, he's a buff, strong, kind of douchey guy. And this one he's more pathetic. He's not... he's not what the character is in the comics. Which I think maybe it should have been, so it's another slight knock. But I like Topher Grace. That 70 Show is my favorite show of all time, or one of my top 2 or 3 shows of all time. So I'll just give it a thumbs up because I just like Topher Grace. But I do agree with you that use the symbiote for Peter Parker, and then once you took it off, and then yeah, you don't see it. I think that could have made a good segue into a fourth one, because I was excited for a fourth one, but yeah. But with Eddie Brock, his character was okay for the movie. Like, if you didn't know anything about the comic books, I don't think there's much of an issue, which is the way I kind of took it. Because I look at comic book movies a little bit different. Like, some people want it to be as accurate to the comic books. I want some accuracy, but at the same time, this is another universe than the comics. So if it's exactly like the comics, then it's the same universe. And they've already established that there's different universes, blah, 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 which wasn't until after, later. But I want to see a little more originality. Maybe don't go too far. There's been movies that went too far original when it comes to comic book movies. But I didn't have much of an issue. Maybe if it wasn't Eddie Brock, it would have maybe worked for more people.
So, again, I'm not a huge fan of like how they did Venom in this film, but I will say that his portrayal of Eddie Brock, I respect for the fact that, like you said, he's a bit wimpy, he's a bit skinny, he's a bit, not to sound harsh, but a bit pathetic compared to like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, that lot. But then if you compare that to the way he acts as Venom, it kind of works, if that makes sense, because you have this like wimpy dude, he goes the wrong ways of getting stuff done. Spider-Man breaks his camera and then he's like, hey, he just doesn't do anything, he's just like, he doesn't have any oomph. But then as soon as he gets his power, he's stronger now, he can do stuff. He acts like a complete dick about it, which is what you'd expect. So I respect the fact that at least the evolution of Eddie Brock to his portrayal of Venom, which in my eyes ain't good, but I respect how they did it. It makes sense. So, since we're on the case of the Venom and everything, compare this version of Eddie Brock and Venom to the movie Venom. Which one would you say is the better portrayal of Eddie Brock and Venom in your eyes?
Well, they're two different. So I like both in a sense, where Topher Grace works for that movie, but he doesn't work for Venom if he carried his own movie. So I like the who was the actor that played him? Crap, I just forgot his name.
Oh, the one that does in the Venom movie?
Yeah.
Oh, why? Do you know? The times where your head goes on a blank,
I know.
And it's just like,
and they're right whenever you remember it. Nobody's even around, and you're like,
yeah, it's like, hey, that's his name, and it's just a case of like, hang on a minute, why did I have to remember this? 1 second, I have the cast up now. It's just loading. Tom Hardy, there you go.
Yeah, Tom Hardy, who was also Bane in Batman.
Yes.
Dark Knight Rises. I do like his portrayal. I do, and it's still different from the comic book. So he at least looks like the comic book Eddie Brock, but he's still not the comic book Eddie Brock, because they kind of made him a more sympathetic, good guy character. Yeah. So in a sense, both portrayals are not the Eddie Brock of the comic books, but they work for their individual movies that they're in, except for the Carnage movie. That really upset me. Yeah,
that's again a different episode, because trust me, we can do that one too. That's going to be a fun one. So when it comes to Venom in Spider-Man 3, do you think he had enough limelight, or do you think that it should have been cut down, or do you feel like, this version of Venom we should have seen at least a bit more of?
So the fact that we didn't get a Spider-Man 4, I think it worked. If Sony decided to continue and do what stay on with Sam Raimi and not reboot it, I don't think it would have worked as much when you add a fourth a movie afterwards. But for that movie, it kind of not creates, but it kind of it it has finality to it. So whatever happens after that just happens. So I'm not a big fan of when movies end ambiguously with no intent or knowing if they're going to continue. Sometimes you can't help it; you mean to, and then some things happen. But it was close-ended enough to where it could work for Venom. Because if they would have just left that with, "Oh, Venom's still around," well, crap, we're not getting to see that.
Are you at least satisfied with the way that, Peter Parker took out Eddie Brock and Venom? Well, not Eddie Brock, he didn't mean to take out Eddie Brock, Eddie Brock died. But, we had the symbiote suit being taken off and pulled away from Eddie via the sound, which I'm glad they put in the whole weakness to sound thing. At least they got the weakness right. So you satisfied with the fact that, he threw a pumpkin bomb at the symbiote, Eddie dived in, there's a big explosion, they're both gone. Are you satisfied with that ending, or would you prefer they be taken out a different way or something different?
I think that works because within that last final battle, you have the Sandman, Green Goblin, Venom, and if you think about it, none of the villains are actually bad people. They just
I agree with that.
No, but sorry, that's my ADHD popping. Sometimes I'll change the subject.
No. I trust me, I'm the same. Welcome to this podcast.
Yeah. No, I liked it. Maybe some of the CG in the shot whenever he's doing it could have been a little bit better, but then again, it was 2007. But I think it was proper for the way Venom went out, if he was going to go out. You didn't really need to have a huge, he did go out with a bang, but not a huge bang since you have other things going on with the Sandman and everything else. So, no, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think because we're not going to get a Venom 4, Spider-Man 4, because they ended it in a way that Harry died, Peter's walking off sad, and we only learn kind of like he continued being Spider-Man and stuff because of No Way Home. But if you take that away, because it ended the way it did, it kind of makes sense that Eddie jumps in, because like we just discussed, he finally has the ability to be the upper man. He has the ability to be, the dominant one. He's a wimpy little dude, and now he has this power. He's gonna want to stick with it. So the fact that he dives in, and there's a bang. I will say this though, it's a bit weird how that one pumpkin bomb did that much damage. Because they're explosives, and we've seen them do a lot of damage, but it wiped out a whole person and a big alien slime thing. Like, that's one thing that always bugs me.
You could write that off as Venom, the symbiote, is a flammable explosive material. And so when you ignite it, it just continues I don't know, I'm just making that up, but because if you think about all three movies, the pumpkin bombs, actually I don't think they're in the second movie, but the first and third one, they all kind of do different things.
Yeah. So yeah, to be fair, in the comic books, in the comic books, some symbiotes are weak to fire. So I guess you could also play it on the fact that maybe this Venom is just weak to flame. I guess there's other ways you could think of it. That's very true.
By the way, I'm on my couch, so if you hear a little, that's not me farting. That's just my couch.
That's fine. That's fair. You may hear me open a bottle. You may hear fizz at some point, so I do apologize about that. So when it comes to Venom's design, we had a very slick, very slim. He was a bit ripped. That's very true. He kind of mirrored Spider-Man. It's almost like someone got the Spider-Man suit and made it scary. What's your thoughts on their design for the Venom suit?
Well, I thought it was okay too. I do think the Venom and the newer Venom movies is probably more to what the character needs to look like. And I understand people's, things with the Venom all around with Eddie Brock and the way the Venom is designed. But that movie didn't need a bigger, larger than life. You already had the Sandman, so he was a little more subdued than you think he should be. But it was it it was necessary so it doesn't overload the whole movie. Because I know a lot of people have gripes. Well, there's 3 villains. Well, have you seen most Marvel movies? There's a lot of villains in some of these movies. So,
Well, see,
um,
I have a counter argument to all those that say, "Oh, there's 3 villains," because yeah, okay, like you said, the Marvel movies do have a lot of villains nowadays, which is true. But you've just a minute ago you mentioned a very good point. None of them are actually villains per se. We have one who has a vendetta against Peter Parker, but he ends up working with him by the end, so really he's not in the final fight as the bad guy. You have Sandman, who is literally trying to get money for his daughter, gets powers, and he's thinking, alright, let's go rob a bunch of people, why the fuck not? And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, if you got the abilities to turn into sand, you're not gonna go around fucking saving cats from trees. You're going to do something, rather dickish with it. That's all I'm saying. And then Venom also had a vendetta against Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So, Venom reaches to Sandman and says, hey, let's get, Spider-Man, I know how to get him. Let's both fuck up the dude who fucked our lives up. Let's do it. Sandman's just like, yeah, right, I want some revenge. I can't do what I want to. I can't save my daughter. Let's fuck the guy who fucked me over. Sure, why not? So it's just like, is there really 3 villains by the end of the film? Like, is there actually, That's
really.
my counter argument.
Well, and the thing with Harry is his story throughout the 3 movies. I know in this one he's more the background. He's not really until the end where he's right at the beginning and then right at the end he's the Green Goblin. But it's just he's more, I guess, more of the background.
Yeah.
Harry over from the second movie, he finds out Peter Spider-Man. Now, again, maybe this would have been better if it was just a Spider-Man. A Spider-Man Green Goblin, but then it'd be too close to the first movie. But I don't know how they would have made the movie to be. I don't know. There's just.
I quite like the fact they worked together at the end because
Yeah.
it's almost like full circle. Because Peter Parker always felt bad the fact that Norman dies. He's always felt bad about that, and he has that argument with Harry, and stuff. And then when Peter realizes that Harry now knows his identity, and we see in the beginning of Spider-Man 3 when MJ does her performance, and obviously he clocks Harry, he does try to chase after him. It doesn't work, obviously, that conversation doesn't go very well, but you can see Peter's like, I don't want to fight you, I feel bad about your dad dying, it's not my fault, but I was there, it's not good. But then Harry needs to go through his little storyline, he loses his memory, he becomes the villain, all this other jazz, and then when he learns that it wasn't Peter's fault, his butler's like, I cleaned his wounds, it came from his glider, like it's not Spider-Man's fault at all. It's now they're working together. So if you take the whole arc of trying to stop Norman, that doesn't work. Norman dies. Harry tries to get revenge. That doesn't work. Now they're working. It's almost like a full circle. So I like the fact they work together at the end because it's almost like completing the Osborn storyline between the father and son Osborn storyline. So I like the fact they work together.
And if you think about most of the movie, the Harry Peter movie, that's not a Spider-Man movie. That's Harry and Peter, and then you need something else on, that's why they added the Sandman in there to kind of make it still a Spider-Man movie, but still bring it in home with the relationship with Harry and Peter.
Yeah. So with just finalizing off with Venom here, Venom kidnaps Mary Jane. Now,
Yes.
my biggest gripe towards the Sam Raimi trilogy, and a lot of people like complain that like his webs are organic and all this other jazz, but my biggest gripe about the Sam Raimi trilogy is all three films, their final act is exactly the same.
So I have
MJ is
a movie
kidnapped.
fact for you. I've got a movie fact for you on this one.
Oh, please
So
indulge me. Go.
originally, that was supposed to be Gwen Stacy. But when Sam
Ah,
Raimi was
okay.
kind of looking at the movie, and because of the story between Peter and Mary Jane, and Harry, it it made more sense in this movie for it to be Mary Jane. It made less sense for it to be Gwen Stacy. So he changed it in production to be Mary Jane instead of Gwen Stacy. Because I understand that too. Because one of my big gripes with the first two movies is the villains are basically the same thing. A mentor of Peter's who becomes a villain, and then he finds out who his family is, or is Mary Jane and whatever, and then there's this big thing at the end. This one is different. Yes, it's Mary Jane at the end, but it works for this. It works for this movie for me, and it was intentional because originally it was not that way.
See, okay, I didn't know about that. That's actually kind of
Yeah.
cool. I understand why it's number 3 because there needs to be a reason why Harry joins in. Harry joins in because he loves MJ, and it's he knows that Peter's never fought two villains before, and he struggled with Green Goblin, he struggled with Doc Ock. So that I understand why it's number 3, and I kind of understand why it's number 1. But the fact that all three films follow the same quota in their final acts is just like it's okay, but it's very repetitive.
Well, I think if they didn't do it in the second movie, because to me the second movie is just a rehash of the first movie. Just the only thing that's different is like now Harry's hates Spider-Man, and then Peter is going through some things, But the whole story is practically the same because he loses Mary Jane. He could get her back at the end, but you're not quite sure. It's ambiguous, which is actually technically all three because even the third one, they don't get back together. It's kind of like, did they really make up? Because there's still a lot of baggage there that you can't just throw away. So, but yeah.
So we have quite a few little subplots throughout Spider-Man 3. We have one of them I wanted to bring up to you, and obviously we just spoke about Gwen Stacy, so I'll start there. What's your thoughts on the fact that Gwen Stacy was introduced? All she really was, plot-wise, in this film was a way to piss off Mary Jane and Eddie, because obviously, she started dating Eddie Brock in the film, that's how we met them. And then when he's got the black suit on and he's, going against his inhibitions, he's, doing whatever his mind wants him to do, he's not holding back at all, and, he wants to kind of make MJ jealous. He wants to piss off A. Brock, so he starts to he doesn't really date Gwen Stacy, does he? He takes her out once, but what's your thoughts on this version of Gwen Stacy?
Well, I like Bryce Dallas Howard. Her dad is Ron Howard, who's a native of Oklahoma. I'm an Oklahoman, so I got that connection.
Oh, cool.
But I don't. So another slight knock, even though I like. There really wasn't much of a reason to have her in there. I think the fact that the first two movies didn't have a whole lot of characters here and there, or maybe it did. They just wanted to introduce more of the characters that were in the comic books.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel she was a little shoehorned. They kind of make it, they try to make it important to the story with Eddie Brock and connecting Eddie Brock with her, and that's your introduction to Eddie Brock. Was it the introduction to Eddie Brock? Was that the first time you see him? I don't remember. It's been a while since I need to see it again. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but I think if they would have had her be the damsel in distress at the end of the movie. It would have made, I don't, even then it didn't really make sense for her to be the one that got kidnapped. Actually, it would if it was Venom kidnapping him, because Eddie Brock thinks that Peter's trying to steal his girl, so he's like, well,
Yeah.
But then they flipped it and said, well, you try to take my girl, so I'm going to take yours, So they did enough to make her character work for it, but I don't think she was terribly necessary.
I think the issue of Gwen Stacy in this film is, okay, you're right, they wanted to bring in more people, more characters that people could associate to the comic books, but I think the issue with Gwen Stacy's arc in this, she's the going to be bad guy's girlfriend, she's the tool to make the main character's love interest jealous, and the going to be bad guy's villain, angry, whatever. That's her story arc in this. You could literally make her anybody. You could name her Sarah, and she would still have the same impact. It'd still make MJ jealous, and it'd still piss off Eddie Brock. They just gave her the name Gwen Stacy because they wanted to relate her to a comic book character. But again, you take what she does to the film, you change her to any woman on the planet, and it'd still make the same impact.
Yep.
That's kind of my issue.
I guess they tried to use, her dad was the chief of police, so then you could do the whole Spider-Man key of the city thing, which kind of, that was one thing that helped make Mary Jane jealous in there, and then Peter takes Gwen Stacy to make Eddie Brock jealous is like this weird love brackets, or whatever you want to call it. But, yeah.
So another subplot that we have going on is Peter's trying to propose to MJ. Now, I think when it comes to Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, but Peter Parker, I think some of my favorite scenes in this film is the scenes where he's trying to propose. The very first scene where we see Aunt May and he's talking to Aunt May. Aunt May explains how Ben proposed, gives him the ring. I love that scene. It's so sweet. And then the scene where he goes up to the French, he's in the restaurant, he goes to the French guy and he's like, Peter Parker, and he's like, no, Peter Parker. It's just brilliant, and that's of course when MJ reveals that she's not doing so well, she's upset with Peter, she's getting negative reviews, all this stuff. I like those scenes because it kind of humanizes Peter in a way, because obviously we've seen him try to get to the girl but not have issues, if that makes sense. It kind of humanizes their relationship a bit, so I do like those scenes because it also kind of, throughout Spider-Man 1 and 2, we see him have two issues. Other than being Spider-Man, we see him have two issues. One, romance, and two, either being at school / work, because they're kind of the same problem, him attending something important. So they're like his two subplots. So the fact that he isn't trying to get MJ, but he's trying to solidify something. I know it's the same kind of, same train track, but at least it's different. And I just enjoy those little scenes of, Peter trying to propose, trying to get down on one, trying to do it, but just nothing works. I just like those scenes. I don't know why, but what's your thoughts on the fact that the romantic plot is more of him trying to propose, but never actually does it? Because, like you said, he walks away at the end. He leaves, the funeral, and we never actually find out if they're together or not. That never actually gets brought up. Even in No Way Home, he doesn't really mention it. So what's your thoughts on the fact that proposal is kind of the romantic subplot here?
Well, it's kind of deeper than that, because I think this one, of all the three movies, the whole Peter and MJ is a little bit deeper, a little bit more complicated, complex, because it's not only he's trying to propose because he thinks everything is perfect. He thinks she's got everything going on. He knows that he's not a rich man, he doesn't have everything, but he's happy and he's content, and just completely oblivious to what she's going through, and some of that is just lack of communication women tend to have. Sorry, I'm being a little. about that. But I do think it was a little funny those scenes where he's trying to propose. That's one thing that Sam Raimi is kind of good at. I know people talk about his horror, but there's a reason why Evil Dead turned to a comedy, because he's not great at making horror. Except for, what was that movie that he did with um uh with the gypsy and the coin, and then it sucks them down.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm
Kinda
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I actually liked of his. It's not very scary. It's PG-13. But anywho, so you have this roller coaster of, at the beginning everything's fine, and then all of a sudden nothing is not fine with her. It's all fine with him, and then he's trying, and then that's when she just belts it out. It's not all good going with me. Stop telling me to jump back on the horse. And he just doesn't know. Just doesn't know what to do. And then you got Harry coming back from his amnesia, and adding more wrenches in it. And then you got the symbiote and the emo Peter.
We'll get to that.
Changing, adding more dynamics to that relationship. So there's just a lot of stuff that goes on between Peter and MJ in this movie. Probably 2 or 3 movies worth of just emotion and just stuff.
My name is Rusfer, also known as the Banker. My name is feared by many universes. And now, I'm currently working on destroying Universe 19. No Ultra Rangers, Power Rangers Cyberforce, Skyforce, hell, even those Kamen Riders, and those pesky Beetle Troopers. Nothing can get in my way. If you want to hear me destroying Power Rangers Universe 19, well, you can listen on the podcast and watch my evil excellence destroy those dumb enough to face me on the Power Rangers Universe 19 podcast. Come listen, if you dare.
So yeah, I agree. I like her
Which makes the movie a little more deeper than the first 2. So,
yeah, I like her performance in this a bit more. I think I like the fact that when she's generally upset, she's kind of like giving Peter a bit of a piece of her mind. I like her performance. She generally looks like she's a bit lost, a bit heartbroken, a bit just not herself, and I think it works. I also think it also kind of mirrors Peter when he's in the black suit, because she's all broken and distraught where he's cocky and attitudey when he's in the black suit. So I find it's a very good mirror there. But yeah, I do. I think I prefer their little tiff in the diner. Him trying to propose, she's having all these other problems. I think I prefer that kind of storyline for this version of Peter of MJ compared to number 1 and 2. I just think
in my opinion, the first 2 movies, MJ's character is just kind of blah. There's not much to her. She's just the girl that Harry likes. I mean, that Peter likes. And so, yeah. So with this one, she's she's got more character. She's more developed. More things are going on with her. She's not just the girl that Harry likes that he let get away. Um, that's she's an actual character, not just a damsel in distress. Like even though she is at the end.
I mean, even damsel in distresses should at least deserve some character development. I mean,
Yeah.
So another subplot that we have is Harry, having amnesia. It occurs the very first time that he puts on the Green Goblin suit to actually go off and attack Peter, which, by the way, I will say this, the very first fight we have, where Peter's swinging around as Peter, fighting Harry in his first get-up. I do quite enjoy that scene. The CGI ain't great, some of the CGI is a bit meh, but take that to one side, I do quite like the fact we see Peter in his normal clothes, swinging around, throwing the little goblin-orangs? I don't know what you call them. Goblin boomerangs? I don't know. I love when he's like, they fly him. He's like, oh, I hate those things. Just absolutely. But the weird thing is, though, Green Goblin never uses them. He has the explosives, but he never uses the boomerang things. Not properly, not like the way that Harry uses them. So, it's a bit weird that Harry mentions the fact he hates them. But anyway, I love the whole fight scene, but it does end with, Harry getting clonked in the head. Pretty harsh, to be fair. There is a bit of a thwack. Yeah. And then, he's forgotten the last... I don't know how many years between number 1 and 3. I don't know how many years have passed for Peter. There's got to be a good, 2 or 3, 4 years?
Yeah, difference. I was thinking 2, 3, or 4, something like that. Yeah.
So he's forgotten. He had to be told that his dad passed away. Died again. So it's been a while. His brain's forgotten all of it. What's your thought on the little Harry subplot that he tries to be the Green Goblin, he fails at it, and now he's got amnesia for a good chunk of the film?
So I think that's one thing I like about it, because it does kind of help rein it into just more of a personal story, a character-driven story, more than like the first 2 movies. Because there's not much character story between Peter. There is with Peter and Eddie Brock, though, but nothing with Flint Marko. He's just kind of there for a little while. But I like that. It helps it. You start out kind of where Harry is at the end of the second movie, where he wants to kill Spider-Man, and then now for a little bit of the movie, it's almost like you're back to square one. Everything's all right, which kind of works with the whole dynamic with Peter and Mary Jane, where he thinks everything's okay, and just kind of going with it before he realizes it's not. So it adds a little more personality. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it just helps the movie become more personal.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I want your opinion on his suit, his Green Goblin outfit. What's your thoughts on that? Because it's completely different to the original.
It is. I need to actually let me look it up real quick, because it's been a while since I've seen it. Yeah, the first get up was just like a sneaking suit or whatever. Boom. Oh, it's not helping me out. There's pictures, images. So I do think, because I did not like the Green Goblin. I don't like the first movie. That's already understood. One reason is Willem Dafoe is a good actor in some movies, but it's just a little too cartoony for me as the Green Goblin. And then that exoskeleton does not look like anything the military would ever design. So,
Fair.
but like, why would they make a goblin mask? Like that just doesn't make no sense. The exoskeleton suit maybe, but the mask made no sense. So this one made more sense for realism, but it is kind of blah. It's kind of a weak design.
I agree on the weak design, and this is a hill I will absolutely die on. It's a weak design, 100% I agree. But I must admit, I do like all the tech and gizmo that he has. I like the hoverboard. Not as a Green Goblin board, but I like the hoverboard thing. I think it's really cool. You do see him, like, jump off it. You know, Spider-Man kicks him off it and he lands on it again. You know, it does... It looks really cool. I like his little blades that pop out. The fact they come out of his actual arms a bit weird. I'm confused, like, how
Like he's
that
Batman.
works. Yeah. I like his sword. I quite like the sword's design as well. It doesn't look like average sword. It looks a bit evil. But yeah, it's out of like all of the designs in Spider-Man 3, suit wise, I think it's one of the weakest, to be honest. It does just kind of look like he's wearing some form of like Black Ops, like, you know, military suit with some green headpiece and gauntlets, you know.
Which probably would make more sense for the first movie, you know, because it's prototypes and all that kind of stuff. Well, I guess that was an exoskeleton suit. But, yeah, I wonder if they just, like, in pre-production while they were doing all this stuff, they ran out of money for for the design of his suit. Like, oh, we did so much for the special effects and this and that. So we're just going to... Let's just go to Walmart and Home Depot and see what we can do.
That's the best explanation how they came up with suit. I love that. It's great. Would you deem him a Green Goblin? Would you nickname him the Hobgoblin?
Okay, so even though Spider-Man's my favorite, I know in the comic books, Green Goblin came first, right? And then the Hobgoblin was somebody else.
Actually, Hobgoblin's been like 4 different people,
Okay.
but one of them is Harry.
So I don't think to me it really matters too much because Green Goblin and Hobgoblin, even though they're technically 2 different characters, they're basically the same premise, like the same. It's just one's a green and one's a hob. They're both green. One's got a hood and one doesn't. One's got a little, you know, sleep hood on, or whatever it's called. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. That's a tricky question.
So, according to fandom Spider-Man 3 Wikipedia, whatever the fuck you want to call it, apparently to this, he's not even Green Goblin. His alias is the New Goblin. Which, no offense, sounds even dumber.
Well, if you think about it, he's not green. He's black. Like he's practically all black suit, right? It's everything is there's
He's
there's
got
little
green
touches.
highlights.
Yeah, there's touches of green in it, but
And you can't really see because both fight scenes that he's in, like major fight scenes he's in, is at nighttime.
Technically, I won't even call him Goblin because it. You know, now this right here is probably the spider monkey from the, you know, in a sense. Yeah, I don't know.
See, I wouldn't even call him a goblin. I'd just say that he's using his dad's tech.
Yeah,
I think I don't. That's the best way to use it, is he's using his dad's technology, and because he goes through the same thing, doesn't he? We see him like exit the chamber of all the green mist. So we know that he goes through the same thing, which he doesn't crack though. His mind, like, you know, when Norman goes through the, I don't even know what you want to call it, but when he goes through the system and he goes through that machine, you know, his mind breaks. It affects him, but with Harry, it doesn't. He just stays angry.
Harry's probably got a lighter dose because it's basically just a mist he's breathing in. Where Norman, he was in the little unit and it being pumped into him, or was it? Is it pumped into him, or was that kind of a mist too? But I'm sure after a few years, it may have degraded a little bit, and he probably didn't, get a full dose. Plus, he was kind of already mad to begin with because he's already, angry. So, he's already in that mindset before he even breathed.
Yeah, maybe that's why his mind doesn't break, because he's got the intent to go off and, harm someone. He's already got the intent that he's ready to do some damage. When Norman breaks, the Green Goblin mentality is like, hey, these people have fucked your job up. These people have fucked your life. Let's go destroy them, shall we? Whereas Harry's already got that intent in his mind. He's doing it to harm Peter. That's the only reason why.
It's been festering in his mind for since his dad died. So
yeah, so maybe that's why. That's actually like a good head canon of why his mind doesn't chatter. So that's a good head canon. I like that. So we have the ending of Harry dying, which I think's a good little way to end his story. He tries to be the hero, and he ends up, that's the last thing he does is, be the hero. I like that. But we also have Venom dying, which, again, we've discussed. But Peter lets Sandman go. And one of the subplots for Sandman is the fact that he is the person who kills Uncle Ben. And it turns out that the events of the first, half of Spider-Man 1 is kind of null and void now, because this is the man who killed Uncle Ben, actually. So what's your thoughts on the fact that, our little subplot for Sandman and the reason why black-suited Spider-Man goes after him is he's the man that killed Uncle Ben, but at the end of it, Peter kind of just says, let's go, and he disappears. What's your thought on that little story arc?
Well, so I think it's kind of like the whole Gwen Stacy thing, where they have to find a way to make it work. And so if Flint Marko was just getting out and he's wanting to, get money for his daughter so, she can, be okay, it wouldn't make much sense for the story that's going on. So for it to be connected to Peter makes sense. And so for him being the one that shoots Flint Marko, which allows Peter to get more angry before, well, he already got the black suit, but it kind of intensifies it. It's similar to the Harry Osborn thing. Once he found out, who killed his dad, then he just couldn't. And Ben Parker was basically his father figure, his father, in a sense. So, it helped bring that story into Peter rather than just something on the outside Peter had to fight and then figure out he's not that bad. He just needs a little bit of money, But it also kind of makes the story have more of a what is that word I'm thinking of? A motivational subject matter of forgiveness and stuff like that, so it adds a little extra to it, rather than the first two, which I don't know what they would bring motivationally. Don't try to kill your friends. I don't know. I don't know what. But yeah, that's my story.
I think when it comes to I don't know if it ruins the Spider-Man's journey throughout the first film, and of course I like the trilogy, so I'm a different plate than you. But I understand they needed an oomph, they needed a push. He is just a guy robbing people. He can turn into sand. I do absolutely love the joke when he sat on the building after fighting Sam the first time. He takes his shoe off and empties it. He's like, "Hey, where did these guys come from?" I like that joke. That's funny. But I don't know. I feel like, do you think Sandman would have stopped robbing people after he leaves, or do you think that, obviously, we don't see anything after, but do you think in this universe, do you think Sandman's robbing people still, or do you think he's gone off to do something different? Because the last we saw before joining up with Venom, he was trying to get money, and obviously that doesn't work. But do you think he had a change of heart, or do you think it's a case of Peter's like, yeah, you can go try robbing someone, then I'll get you in prison? It's not explained, so I think that's my issue.
There's a lot of issue there, because if he's walking out free, there should already be a manhunt looking for him, knowing that he's free. So it doesn't make much sense for Peter just to let him go. Rather, they should have created a way that Peter, even though he's a photographer, not an investigative reporter, Peter can help him prove his innocence, and then he can live his life, which would have made no sense to be put in this movie, which I get it. They just kind of let him go. But he's also sand, so nobody's going to catch him, so I guess it really doesn't matter. And, his daughter's mom is probably still not going to let him come around. So so it does create some things where he might still end up becoming a bad guy.
I think Sandman's the only thing I don't like about Spider-Man No Way Home, is because they brought Sandman back and made him out to be this big bad guy, but I'm sort of thinking, have you watched Spider-Man 3? Because he's not, he's just robbing people, and Peter let him go at the end. Why is he here? That's my allegations. No,
it depends on so if they picked him out while he was in that just angry phase, then maybe, because he's still...
Yeah, actually, picked him out from good points, yeah.
Because you'd have to pick him out from that movie, because after the movie, this makes no sense to pick him out then. So it would have to be a point in that movie.
Okay, so the last subplot I want to bring up, and this is I think the one thing that everyone gets pissed off about. When I asked the dad group chat, everyone was like, yeah, this. Everyone pointed this out. And it's the most memed, it's the most hated Marvel scene when it comes to Spider-Man, and that's, of course, we have Peter Parker becoming very, like you mentioned earlier, very emo-esque. His hair kind of quiffs over his face now. He's got his suit on display a lot, under his collar a little bit. He acts a bit like a dick. He tries to steal someone's girl. He uses the new girl to get the old girl jealous. He's, no offense, he's actually a pretty big dick to Eddie, I'm gonna say. Black Suit Spider-Man, all this stuff. What's your thoughts on how they portrayed, we'll talk about Black Suit Spider-Man in a second, but Peter Parker himself? How do you think they portrayed his, being influenced by the black suit sort of storyline?
Well, I think it works for the most part. The emo hair maybe doesn't make any sense. But I think overall, because it kind of feeds on his anger, that's what it does. And so it turns him into somebody that's more angry and then, even manipulative. Because, again, that's what Venom is. So you're personifying Venom, but also Peter at the same time. And I think it works for the most part. Yeah, some things can be a little corny with the whole dancing in the street, thing. But it did help. I don't know what it did help, but it added more intrigue with Peter and Mary Jane's storyline, and added more reason to have Gwen Stacy in there. So I guess it worked.
So, again, I don't hate this movie. I think it's the weakest Spider-Man film. I wouldn't say I hate it, though. But one thing I'm not trying to defend emo Peter Parker, but I find it very humorous, and I recently watched the Tobey Maguire trilogy this year, early in the year, because my fiance is now slowly getting into superhero films, and she's now, we're now going through the MCU. She's about to watch Captain America 2, and I want her to start on the Tobey Maguire trilogy because that's what I grew up with. I'm gonna make everyone feel really old right now, but I was 5 when Spider-Man 2. No, Spider-Man 1 came. I was 5 when Spider-Man 1 came out, so I was like 5 going to the cinema to watch Spider-Man 1. So that makes everyone feel old. I'm
That
sorry.
makes me feel old because I was 15. So
So I was a babby, but I grew up with those films. I know for a fact, like, my mate James is the same. He will say that, like, that's his Spider-Man. I disagree. I do love the films. They are, like, some of my favorite. That's, like, one of my favorite trilogies. But, like, I respect all Spider-Man films in different ways. But, like, I do quite like the little montage we get of him being a bit of a douche, like when he's on the phone and he's got the girl that lives across from him, like, giving him cookies and stuff, and he's like, hey, do you have some milk? I just find it really humorous. And, like, okay, yeah, we've got the dance scene, but, and again, I don't like it. I think it's stupid, it's dumb, but I do see where Sam Raimi was coming from, because if you watch Spider-Man 1 and 2, we have this nerdy. Okay, we don't really see him be a nerd. They didn't really do the whole scientific side of Spider-Man, but we do have a nerdy little geek. He doesn't feel like he can be in a relationship. He's always failing at his work, blah, blah. Look at the way that he acts when he's trying to propose. Look at the way that he acts when, another girl kissed him as Spider-Man, and he's like, oh, it's fine, right? Like, he has no idea. Like you said, he's completely oblivious to MJ. MJ's there with our life falling apart, and Peter thinks he's walking through Cloud 9. So it's a counterbalance on that, because now he doesn't give two flying fucks. He doesn't care. And that's why he steps and he's dancing in the street, and he's being a bit, he's pointing at other girls and stuff like this. It's because he no longer cares. And I guess that's why he has his hair that way. I guess because, Peter's always been a bit smart and proper, so I guess it's kind of like, I guess that's the only way they could think of to make him look a bit more edgy, was to give him that little quiff over his face. I mean, there's other things a guy can do with his hair, but I guess
kind of
that's
hard
the reason.
to make Tobey Maguire look a little more edgy. So
Yeah, exactly.
you got to try something.
Yeah, so, like, I don't like it. I think it's stupid, but I can see what they were doing. I respect at least the attempt of what they were doing. I don't see why he has to dance in the middle of the street, but I can kind of see why they did it. There's other things you could do. I do like his dance with Gwen Stacy in the pub. He's like, dig on this, and it's just like, it's like, yes, it's dumb, but it's just like cocky, and I just enjoyed seeing Peter being cocky for 2 seconds. I just enjoyed that scene, and like, I don't know, I see what they did. I just feel like they could have either made him a bit more aggressive or cocky or something. I feel like there was just something missing from this version of Peter Parker. I think the best thing out of this version of Peter Parker is his fight scene with Harry. I think that was good. The whole fight scene with him and Harry in is it his basement, or is it like his loft or something? Like, it's in Harry's house, right?
Yeah, I don't think, because I'm sure it's all high rise or something, so it's probably a back room somewhere.
But I really do enjoy that fight scene. He throws the bomb at the wall and it blows up half of Harry's face, which, by the way, actually makes him look really cool. He shoots a big scar, like Zuko's scar. And but that fight scene I like, because that's not Spider-Man fighting, the new Goblin, as he's fucking named, which is dumb. But that's not a fight between Spider-Man, and that's a fight between Peter Parker, who's now juiced up to fuck, and Harry, who's also been juiced up to fuck. It's what happens when two best friends fight but have superpowers. And it's not needed in the storyline, really, but I like the fact we got it, because it kind of shows the fact that they're still human, even though he's Spider-Man and he's now. I'm just gonna keep calling him the Green Goblin. It's a better name. And they're basically fighting over a girl. By the way, that's why they're fighting is over MJ. But like, it almost humanizes the fact that it's those two fighting. We saw Green Goblin attack Peter Parker in the beginning of the film, and that again it was a cool fight. But this is just two people. It's not superheroes. There's no masks, anything like that. It's just two people, and I like that. I think that's a very good way of showing off the fact that both of them are angry. They're both fighting over this girl. Hey, let's have them kick the crap into each other. And the only reason why Peter won is because he blew up half a wall. If there wasn't an explosion wall behind him that literally could detonate, I think Harry could have got back up again. But I
think it was a good end to, I guess, their little fight. Where it's kind of like where everything comes to a head. They just fight it out at the end, and then Harry wins, and Peter wins, leaves Harry just kind of like, what the crap is going on? And then that's when his butler said, Spider-Man didn't kill, and then kill your dad. So it helped him to kind of get away to think about it rather than continue to plotting to kill Peter. It's a good segue to his little revelation at the end.
Yeah. So when I asked my dad group chat, exactly the question of, okay, I'm talking to Ben, is there anything you want me to mention? The very first thing Willie said, or Cosplay 267 to some of my listeners, he said the black suit. That's one thing that he gets niggled at, because obviously in the comics, in the cartoons, and things like this, we lose all detail of Spider-Man's suit, and obviously Sam Raimi made it so like the web pattern in his suit actually has some 3D detailing to it and things like this, but the black suit version of the suit still keeps all the detail, it's just now all black. So what's your thoughts on the actual black suit?
I think it works, but if you look at that philosophy, I guess you could say. Like, I'm not discrediting it, but in the comic books, all his webbing on his suit is kind of more imprinted.
Yeah,
it's not like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, where webs are like 3D. They're sticking out. Everything's poking out. It's not just a printed suit. So it makes sense here that it's just a black version of that, because it just goes in the suit rather than being a smooth, silky Spider-Man suit with a white spider, which wouldn't make no sense. It would just be all black. But I think it makes sense because of that, because that's the way they designed the Spider-Man suit, which is actually different than it has been in the comic books and the cartoon. So with the symbiote, it just made it black, but the details are still going to be there because the way they're protruding out the costume rather than just being a straight costume.
See, I do like the fact that he I don't know if this is true. I could be completely making this up in my head. But to me, black suit Spider-Man looks a bit more like buff. He looks a bit more like, tanked than normal red and blue suit. I don't know if that's just me, but like I feel like there's an essence of strength when he's wearing the black suit. Now I will give credit to this particular scene when he takes off the suit. When he officially rips off the black suit off of him, I will give that scene some credit, because it's very comic book-esque. Mm-hmm. It's in the bell tower, which I'm glad they did, because that happens in the comic.
That's an iconic cell within the Spider-Man, comic, so it works that way.
Yeah. I like the fact that, you can see the struggle. He tries to take off a little bit and it just bounces off of him. And, like on the back of his neck, you can see him trying to rip it. And then eventually he hits the bell. And then you see the suit panicking. He's like, right, it's the bell that works. So he carries on ramming himself into it, which, by the way, that would fucking hurt, ramming yourself into a big metal thing. And then you do
Spider-Man, though.
Yeah, but still, he's forcing himself to run into a piece of metal to get this suit off. You can see the struggle, and then we have Eddie down below who gains the symbiote as it's being torn off of Peter. And I will admit, as a kid, because yes, I was a child in 2007, when Eddie officially has the suit on him, and when he's on all fours and it's going in his mouth and stuff, which is weird, by the way, and then he launches at the screen, that scared the living daylights out of me when I first watched that. Please mind, I was 9 years old. I was 9 years old when that film came out. I was now it's fine, but when he first jumped at the screen, I was like, whoa, okay, Jesus Christ. But I will say that I do like the fact that they decided to go as close to comic book as they could with symbiote being torn off Peter. He's using the bell. It looks like he's struggling to get it off. He's screaming his lungs out. I just thought at least they got that scene right. At least that scene is impactful.
Yeah, I agree.
What's your thoughts on the fact that Eddie Brock clicked on that it was Peter, even though he's several floors down? Because I've seen a lot of people bitch at the fact that Peter's thrashing around and stuff. Apparently, you wouldn't better tell it's Peter. Do you think that Eddie was...
No, but that's kind of like the whole thing in movies where you see somebody whisper and then people that are right down the street, it seems like, can hear them. Whenever they're addressing the audience and there's no microphone and then they just whisper something and everybody can hear what they're saying. So, if that works in movies, well, then this works too.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, we've kind of torn Spider-Man 3 open and we've kind of dived in and,
Maybe I changed your mind.
I definitely wouldn't put it up any higher than Spider-Man 2. Personally, I think Spider-Man 2 is the better film. I understand where you're coming from, and you seem to see films not just as a movie, not just a storyline. I've talked to you several times now about films and things, and you definitely seem to take in cinematography, acting, directing. You take it all in. You don't just take a slice of pie, you take the whole pie sort of scenario, which is why I want to do this sub-series of you, because, you're kind of known for this sort of stuff. And the Gwen Stacy thing, I didn't know about the fact that Gwen Stacy was the third one. It meant to be the first one that was meant to be the kidnapped one. If it was just a Venom as the villain, maybe that would work. That Eddie kidnapped Gwen. If it was just Venom.
I think if it was just Venom, I think it would work better that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if they did it in such a way where MJ and Peter's relationship was fixed before the last fight. Then Gwen was kidnapped. Peter could have gone to MJ and gone, look, I have to save her. She's in this position because of me. And then MJ's like, all right, yeah, fair enough. Then maybe that would have worked. But yeah, having it so Eddie nicks MJ because Peter nicked Gwen also kind of works, I guess.
But if you look at this movie in a nutshell, and it works. It does work for this story. It's kind of redundant, but for this story, it does work. It was not necessary in the first two movies, but it was necessary in this one.
So whenever we bring up a Marvel movie, I'm going to ask you this question every time. Every time we bring up a Marvel movie, what's your thoughts on the Stan Lee cameo in this film?
Which one was his cameo in this one?
This is the one where he's
in the street, and then
he's looking up at the sign.
People can make a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just a standard one of his cameos. I think one of his best ones was the Amazing Spider-Man cameo where he's in the library with his...
Yes, no, I agree. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Which is also my favorite Spider-Man movie. So...
Well, I think when it comes to this sub-series, we're not just going to dive into films that are, like, considered complete and utter flops, and you like them. I think we'll also reverse it a bit, where, like, films that you deem not good, but I enjoy as well, we'll mix it up and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a whole list of films that we can, I plan on doing several different Marvel and DC films. I consider the DC extended universe, whatever the fuck they called it with Justice League and stuff, I deemed that complete rubbish. So I'm very curious to dive into DC with you and things like this. I know for a fact, I'm not going to name the film here because I'm waiting to do an episode with you, but there is a film that I've watched in the cinema within the last 3 years. I deem it one of the best films ever fucking made. I watched your TikTok and you slandered the fuck out of it, right? And I can't
Now
wait
I'm
till
curious.
Right, I can't wait for that episode because I'm going to destroy you. But I'm not going to do it next because it's Marvel related. So I'm not going to do another Marvel one
related.
straight. You ripped the crap into the, and I'm like, how fucking dare you?
Now that's going to rack my brain trying to figure that one out.
Oh yeah. But anyway, we're coming to a close. Ben, you have, you do different things. People can go check you out. Do you want to quickly, platform's yours. Do you want to quickly tell everyone where they can find your content?
All right. So, whenever, I make more,
he's on sabbatical, mind. He's on like a break.
Yes,
but
that's what I'm
he
saying.
will return.
When I make, which I do quite a bit. Every once in a while, I just get either burned out or some things are going on inside or in my life that I just
hey, dude, you're human,
prioritize. I prioritize over. So I have a TikTok. You can look up. It's at Baker Rangers. Which is Baker Rangers everywhere. So Baker Rangers. I have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We have a podcast that I need to film another episode after my. Record another episode after my technical blunder of the last one that didn't come out because of technical difficulties, which is why it's called Baker Rangers Technical Difficulties Podcast, because I'm the king of technical difficulties. I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be some on this episode as well. So
just so you know, that was actually an ongoing joke, right? So my fiance doesn't know any of you. The only person she's actually met in person is Mark, because I've met him in person. So we're in the car today, and I've told the boys that we're talking about Spider-Man 3. I want their opinion on what we could call this little sub-series and stuff. My partner literally sits there and goes, babe, you can't record with Ben. And I'm like, why? And she's gone, you just got a new PC the other day and you want to record with Ben? Is that fucking wise? And I just laughed. I was like,
it's probably not a good idea. I'm sorry. But you've been warned. You should know better.
We have some stories of Ben and his technical difficulties. So my favorite one is Jared. My favorite story is Jared. That's great.
Yeah. I'll tell it real quick because I know I told you right before we started recording, but I was supposed to have an episode a few weeks ago, which is one reason why I haven't got another episode. I recorded with him a few months ago, and when I went to go edit it, like the day before I was going to post it, I realized I did not record him at all. I was just talking to myself. So,
you did a giveaway of comics, didn't you? And you actually went to meet Jared and deliver his in person. So I think 2 or 3 days ago, before you delivered the comics to him in person, I explained to Jared the joke of, your technical difficulties, how everyone says, don't trust Ben with tech. So I explained the whole joke to him, and Jared's like, oh yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah, about a week later, he messaged me and went, so, how you told me about Ben and, his whole tech? I was like, yeah. And he goes to me, I met him in person, he delivered me the comic books. I was like, alright, cool. And he went, the same day, my recording fucked up.
Yeah, it just...
So I laughed. I was like, see? It's literally Ben's curse.
Yeah. And when a few years ago, or last year, the year before, whenever I was starting them, I did an episode with Willie. We talked about The Last Starfighter, and I had to record that twice because it did not record him the first time.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah. It's cray-cray.
You also have TikToks, don't you?
Yes. I have 2 major TikToks. I have technically 3, but I have 2 Baker Rangers related TikToks. One is just my normal Baker Rangers page where I just do nerd stuff. Might talk about Power Ranger comic books, do Power Ranger comic book giveaways, which I've been meaning to do one, but I'm waiting to send off yours and Mark's giveaway winnings. I don't feel
Yeah,
right doing
Ben
another winning.
God.
I don't feel right doing another giveaway if I haven't sent everything from the giveaway, even though that was from February, and I do apologize.
You hear this, right? We were recording this
You
on the
do. It's
28th of
recording, and you're
May.
posting it.
This is being recorded on the 28th of May. February. With end of May. I've been waiting for months.
Now, to be fair, whenever I send a comic book in the U.S., it's like $8. So,
Yeah.
it's easy. When I got two guys from England winning at the same exact time, and then I will have to apologize because I didn't forget, and I was getting it ready, and then this whole, things going on in my life, good things, but when I kind of changed some of my priorities the last month or so, I completely forgot. So
Hey, dude,
I went
it's
on a
fine.
work trip.
Yeah. Life
I
happens.
went on a work trip last week, but right before I went to go set it up. So yours is in a box, ready to go. I already filled out the customs form. I need to get Mark's. I was going to do his, but then I ran out of tape to tape the box. So I have to go. I went to the store earlier today and I forgot to get tape. So I'm going to have to do it tomorrow. And then, hopefully this week, get them sent out. For real, though. For real.
But yeah, so that's... Yeah, and then you said you had 2 TikToks, so your second one would be...
Yeah, so my second one is my movie. So at first I was doing my just all on one. And then I decided, well, what if I were to split it, do my normal nerd stuff on my main page, and my movie reviews be themselves. So I have BR movies, and I don't even know what it's called. Let me go look it up real quick. That was TikTok opening up. Yeah, I've lost followers since I haven't been on much.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, BR_reviews. So that's where I do movie reviews. I need to do more. So I recently watched a few movies that I need to do reviews on. So hopefully they will come out.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, go follow Ben, go check him out, and maybe we can prompt Ben to maybe at least talking about a few films on his movie talk one. And
Yes.
yeah, we're gonna end the recording here. Of course, Ben will return. We're gonna in a few weeks. In the next few weeks, I'll talk to Ben about the next film, and he can come back and we can dissect. We can dissect another film. So thank you, Ben, for coming on. It's been a blast. I've enjoyed doing, a bit nostalgic, Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man is very nostalgic for a lot of people, so I am looking forward to...
It was nostalgic for you because you were 9, but I was like 20, so for me that was like 5 years ago.
So yeah, guys, if you're listening to this on YouTube, then you can come to YouTube and let us know in the comment section down below your thoughts on Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Do you agree with Ben, or you're kind of like on my side where it's not exactly the best film? We'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions, and of course, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Spotify and the other places you can listen to your podcast. Huge shout out to Zero Hero and If You Give a Dad a Podcast, which of course, without them, we wouldn't be sat here talking on this podcast. Huge shout out to the Three Ranger Bros, which is Mark the Cornish Ranger, Cosplay Dude 637, and myself. And yeah, of course, I'm usually uploading Mondays. There's been a few hiccups recently. I'm not going to blame Ben, because it was before Ben coming on, so I'm not going to blame Ben, but I have a slight feeling my computer just knew it was Ben's fault.
Always. They knew I was coming.
Yes, but thank you, Ben, for, of course, coming on. I can't wait to have you on again. Thank you guys for listening, and we shall see you guys in the next one.
This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zio to Hero, the podcast.